For a full 48 hours, the entire golf world collectively held its breath. Scotty Scheffler was standing on the fifth fairway at 9 strokes under par when the blaring siren suddenly started. Rory McIlroy was positioned on the practice green, working on his putting stroke. Shane Lowry disappeared somewhere into a panicked, surging crowd of spectators. The Arnold Palmer Invitational, one of the most prestigious and eagerly anticipated events on the entire PGA Tour schedule, had been abruptly shut down due to a credible security threat. Its normally pristine fairway sat empty and abandoned. Its immediate future remained deeply uncertain, and through all of this unfolding chaos, one singular voice remained conspicuously, almost deafeningly silent. Tiger Woods, the tournament's 8-time champion, the man who has won more times at Bay Hill than any other player in the history of the sport, watched from the quiet confines of his Jupiter Island compound as chaos unfolded at a course he has called his personal playground for 2 full decades. Today, for the very first time since the incident occurred, he is finally speaking out. And what he has just said now has the PGA Tour scrambling to respond. Bay Hill has always been Tiger Woods' personal playground. 8 victories, 62 rounds played under par, a scoring average so absurdly low that it quite simply defies logical explanation. This man owns his place in a way that very few athletes can claim to own any single venue in all of professional sports. When the Arnold Palmer Invitational is mentioned in conversation, the very first name that springs to most people's minds isn't even Palmer himself. It is Woods. So when chaos erupted that Saturday afternoon, when piercing sirens cut through the warm Florida air and terrified fans were herded urgently toward exits, when players were escorted off the course without even their clubs, when the tournament they had worked so hard all week to compete and was suddenly suspended indefinitely, the golf world instinctively turned a collective gaze toward Tiger. Where was he? What was he thinking in that moment? What would he eventually say about all of this? The answer, for 48 agonizing hours, was nothing at all. Tiger Woods, still recovering from his latest back surgery at his Jupiter Island compound, watched the exact same television coverage that everyone else in the world watched. He saw the panicked crowd scrambling for safety. He saw the empty, abandoned fairways. He saw the tournament that bears his late friend's name reduced to something resembling a crime scene investigation. And he stayed completely silent. His phone, according to sources who are close to him, was anything but silent during that period. Calls poured in from PGA Tour officials, from fellow players, from media contacts desperately seeking a comment for their stories. Each and every one of those requests was politely but firmly declined. Tiger was processing the situation. Tiger was waiting for more information. Tiger was letting the situation fully unfold before he added his influential voice to the growing chorus of public commentary. That silence, in and of itself, was absolutely deafening. For a man who has spent 30 years being the first to comment on nearly every major event in professional golf, his uncharacteristic reticence spoke volumes to those who know him well. This was not just another controversy. This situation was fundamentally different from anything that had come before. This struck at something much deeper and more primal. The safety of the game he loves above all others. The sanctity of the very courses where he made so much history. The uncertain future of a tour that he is now helping to actively lead from the boardroom level. When Tiger Woods does not speak, people definitely notice. And for 2 full, anxious days, the golf world noticed. While the golf world waited impatiently for a public statement that seemed to be taking forever to arrive, Tiger Woods was quietly working the phones behind the scenes. According to multiple sources who are familiar with the internal situation, Woods placed his very first call within just hours of the evacuation. It was not to the media. It was not to his personal representatives. It was to PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan. The conversation, described by one insider as intense but ultimately productive, lasted nearly 4 to 5 minutes. Woods wanted specific answers. What exactly was the threat? How was the situation handled by security personnel? What protocols were currently in place to prevent something like this from ever happening again in the future? He wasn't accusatory, the source said. He was investigative. Tiger does not react emotionally anymore. He gathers information carefully, assesses the situation thoroughly, and then decides what needs to be done next. Next, Woods reached out to Bay Hill's ownership group directly. He has won 8 times at Arnie's place. He knows every single inch of that property intimately. He wanted to fully understand how security had been breached, or nearly breached, and what concrete changes will be implemented going forward. He cares about that course like it is his own, another source revealed. He and Arnie were genuinely close. That place is sacred to him. The thought of something terrible happening there, on those grounds, to those players, to those fans, it hit him very, very hard. Finally, Woods reached out to players directly. Scottie Scheffler received a thoughtful text message. Rory McIlroy got a personal phone call. Shane Lowry, still reeling emotionally from his own cognizant collapse and now caught up in yet another traumatic event, heard from Tiger personally. Tiger just wanted to check in, Lowry later revealed to the press. He did not talk about golf at all. He did not talk about the tournament at all. He just wanted to make sure I was okay. That meant more to me than he will ever know. Behind the scenes, Woods was also in close contact with security experts and law enforcement contacts whom he has cultivated over decades of living under constant threat. As one of the most recognizable athletes on the entire planet, he understands personal security better than most people ever will, and he has specific, detailed questions about how this particular situation was handled from start to finish. By the time Woods finally broke his public silence, he had already done more behind the scenes than anyone outside his inner circle knew. The phone calls, the text messages, the quiet coordination, that was the real, substantive work. The public statement was simply the final piece of a much larger puzzle. Monday morning, just hours before play was officially scheduled to resume at Bay Hill, Tiger Woods finally spoke publicly about the incident. The statement came through his official media channels, carefully worded as always, but unmistakably personal in its tone and content. It read, in part, "Like everyone who genuinely loves this game, I have spent the last 48 hours simply trying to process what happened at Bay Hill. My first thought is always for the safety of the players, of the fans, and of every single person who makes these events possible. I am deeply grateful that no one was physically hurt and that law enforcement acted swiftly to neutralize the threat as quickly as they did." But then the statement shifted noticeably. It became something more than a routine expression of relief. Bay Hill is a very special place. It always will be. Arnie built something there that truly transcends the sport of golf. A sense of community, a sense of family, a sense of coming together to celebrate the game we all love. What happened Saturday threatened that, but it did not destroy it, and it simply cannot destroy it. The reference to Arnold Palmer was entirely deliberate on Woodsy's part. Woods and Palmer shared a bond that went far beyond golf, a mutual respect between two legends of the sport, a genuine friendship that endured right up until Palmer's passing in 2016. Woods has always been deeply protective of Palmer's lasting legacy, and Bay Hill is arguably the physical embodiment of that very legacy. The statement continued, "I have spoken with tour officials, with law enforcement personnel, and with several of the players directly. I am confident that every necessary step is being taken to ensure something like this never happens again. But confidence alone is not enough. We need tangible action. We need better protocols. We need a system that protects the integrity of the game without turning it into a fortress." That final line was arguably the most telling of all. Woods, who has lived with personal security protection for 3 full decades, understands a delicate balance between safety and accessibility far better than anyone else in the golf world. He knows that golf's unique appeal lies largely in its openness, the ability for fans to walk the fairways alongside their heroes, to feel deeply connected to the game in ways that other professional sports simply do not allow. But he also knows that such openness inevitably comes with inherent risk. "The PGA Tour is my home," his statement concluded. "It is the home of every player on that course. We have to protect it, not just from external threats, but from the fear that those threats create. Fear is the real enemy here. Fear changes behavior. Fear closes doors. Fear makes us forget why we fell in love with this game in the very first place." He ended with a powerful call to action, not just for the tour, but for everyone who loves golf. So let us not let fear win. Let us show up on Monday, finish what we started together, and remind the entire world that this game is bigger than any single moment, any single threat, any single day. Arnie would want it that way, and so do I. The statement landed like a bomb in the golf media ecosystem. Within mere hours, it had been shared thousands of times across social media platforms, analyzed and debated by every major sports outlet, and quoted extensively by players as they prepared to resume their halted rounds. Tiger Woods had finally broken his extended silence, and in doing so, he had given the golf world exactly what it desperately needed: a voice of calm reason, a call to personal courage, and a powerful reminder of what truly matters most. Tiger Woods' statement was not just about one scary afternoon at Bay Hill. It was about something far larger and more consequential: the uncertain future of a sport that had suddenly been forced to confront threats that no one had ever seriously imagined before. Since joining the PGA Tour Policy Board in 2023, Woods has transformed himself from a silent, iconic legend into an active, engaged architect of the Tour's future direction. He now sits in rooms where security protocols are discussed at length, where threat assessments are reviewed in detail, where the delicate balance between accessibility and safety is debated endlessly by the people in charge. Saturday's traumatic events gave him an unexpected platform to speak openly about issues that he has been quietly working on behind the scenes for many months. The Tour's existing security apparatus is already quite extensive. Bag checks at entry points, CCTV surveillance across the grounds, trained security personnel positioned at every access point. But as Woods himself noted, the goal is not just to have protocols in place. The goal is to have protocols that actually work, without turning professional golf into something unrecognizable. "We cannot let fear change who we fundamentally are," he wrote in a follow-up message to players that later leaked to the media. "Golf is special because fans can walk alongside us, because kids can get autographs, because there's a human connection that you simply do not get in other sports. If we lose that, then the bad guys win, even when they do not actually hurt anyone." His words resonated powerfully because they came from genuine lived experience. Woods has lived with credible security threats for 3 decades. He has had to constantly balance the legitimate need for personal protection with a sincere desire for normalcy in his daily life. He understands the necessary trade-offs in ways that very few other people ever will. The PGA Tour, under new CEO Brian Rorapor's leadership, has already shown a genuine willingness to adapt and change with the times. The Brooks Koepka decision, the aggressive stance toward LIV golf, the comprehensive overhaul of the tournament schedule, all of these moves were signs of an organization finally playing offense instead of constantly playing defense. Security will likely be the next major frontier for the Tour. Every event will now be carefully reviewed, a Tour official confirmed after the incident. Every single protocol will be thoroughly examined. "We are not going to wait for something worse to happen before we take action." For Tiger, this entire situation is deeply personal. Bay Hill is Arnie Palmer's living legacy. He has protected that legacy with his very presence for many years. The thought of that legacy being tarnished by violence is simply unacceptable. Arnie built something that truly transcends golf, Tiger said privately to those close to him. "We owe it to him to make absolutely sure that it stays that way." Monday morning dawned clear and bright over Bay Hill. The sun rose over a course that had spent 48 hours in a state of suspended animation, its fairways empty, its greens untouched, its immediate future uncertain. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the players finally returned. Scottie Scheffler walked back to the fifth fairway, marked his ball exactly where he had left it, and resumed the round that had been interrupted at the very height of his momentum. Rory McIlroy stepped back onto the practice green, the very same spot where he had been standing when the siren first started. Shane Lowry, still carrying the heavy emotional weight of so much recent trauma, took his designated place on the course and tried desperately to focus on playing golf. The crowds were noticeably smaller than they would have been on a normal Sunday. Some fans simply could not make it back on a Monday due to work or travel constraints. Others were too shaken by Saturday's events to feel comfortable returning to the scene. But those who did come brought something special with them, a quiet determination to show that fear had not won the day. Tiger Woods was not physically present at Bay Hill. His body, still healing from surgery, simply will not allow that kind of travel and stress during a recovery period. But his presence was felt everywhere nonetheless. Players quoted him in their post-round interviews. Fans held up signs referencing his powerful statement. The spirit of Arnie, the voice of Tiger, the resilience of the entire golf community, all of it converged powerfully on a single Monday morning in Florida. The official investigation continues. The individual taken into custody remains in custody. His motives are still unclear to investigators. His actions are still being carefully analyzed by experts. Law enforcement has promised a full, transparent review of how the threat was handled and what specific areas can be improved for the future. The PGA Tour has already begun that rigorous review internally. Every single protocol, every communication channel, every decision point from that Saturday is being thoroughly examined. The goal is not simply to understand exactly what happened. The goal is to ensure with absolute certainty that it never happens again. For the players, the resumption of play represents a return to normalcy after an abnormal weekend. For the fans, it is a chance to reclaim something that was almost violently taken away from them. For the tour, it is an ongoing test. Can they adequately protect the game without fundamentally changing what makes it uniquely special? Tiger Woods, watching from his home in Jupiter Island, has his own clear answer to that pressing question. Golf is resilient. He wrote in a final message to players on Monday morning. Arnie knew that. I know that. Now the whole world knows it too. The tournament will finish. A champion will be crowned. Life will go on. But Saturday at Bay Hill will never be forgotten. And thanks to the voices that spoke up, Tiger most of all, neither will the important lessons that it taught all of us. For more in-depth coverage of the biggest stories in the world of golf, please subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.